So I'm continuing to work on this HX-20 cassette drive, and it's still not working right, and it also seems like it's not really running at the correct speed and not consistently starting. So kind of issues I had before. I thought I've solved it a few times with lubrication, but just symptoms kept coming back. So I watched a video from a suggestion in my second part to this rebuild. In one of the comments saying to go and check out a Hey Birt video. I'll put the link below. And in that video, he pulls apart a cassette drive and replaces belts and capacitors. And he shows kind of a easy way to take this apart by just removing a couple wires. So I suggest you look at that video if you are having any issues. But after doing that, I have a better view of the belt, and you can see right here, pretty sure it is rubbing, so that's probably at least that issue. So as I'd said before, this is a 50mm diameter 1mm square belt. So let's pull this out and actually measure it, because I'm suspecting it's just not exactly right. Maybe a little bit out of spec. So there's the belt. Let's take this out to 50mm. So I mean, that's probably about right. That's 1.3mm, not 1mm. That's 1.2. So the belt is slightly oversized. The website that I had linked in my previous video was a guy who bought a 1mm square 50mm belt and it worked. So I'm thinking maybe just that extra 0.3mm is enough to make this rub. But I ordered the actual belt that Hey Birt used in his video, and it should be in the mail pretty soon. So when that comes in, we'll replace it. But I'm gonna go ahead and replace these capacitors since I have this board out. I probably won't have it out this far again, assuming everything works. So I'll do that, and as soon as the belt shows up, then we'll put it back together and see if it works. The new belt showed up. Here's the new one. There's the old one. You can see it's a little thinner. Seems to be about the same diameter. Let's see. Yeah, it's about 50mm. Or right at 2 inches. A little under 2 inches. So let's check out. That's exactly 1mm. And that's 1.1. So I think the 1mm square 50mm diameter is correct. It's just this belt that I bought before is not correct. It's out of spec according to the listing. I got that on eBay, so it's something you have to watch out for. That original website, it also listed 0.8mm square belt would work. So if you could find that and you weren't buying from this source, then that might give you a better shot of having one closer to the right size. So I'm going to install this. It's pretty easy, just around the pulley and then around that one, and turn it a couple times to let the belt align itself. And pretty much just got to put it back together now. So I'll get that done, and hopefully this thing will work now. Because if not, then we have to actually go in and start troubleshooting signals. I did find a section of one of the technical manuals that told what to look for at different points on the board. So if this doesn't work, we'll have to start with that. Alright, and we're all back together. So let's see if this thing works. Probably just start fast forwarding. That's working fine. Now slow forward. This was having trouble starting. It looks like it's having no issues. So let's rewind to the beginning. Alright, so let's go into basic and See if we can save something and then load it. Alright, so I'll write a quick program, just print something. Test save. Then if we run that, it says test save. Okay, so that's working. So let's save. Cassette 0, and we'll call it test. Try that. Alright, well, it's moving. A lot of times that wouldn't even move whenever it would start recording, then it would error out. It said you're actually supposed to get off the beginning of the tape. This doesn't have the little clear strip at the beginning of the tape, so I don't know if that matters or not, but that might be an issue. So we will rewind. And we'll see if we can load cassette 0 test. It's definitely working better than it was. It doesn't look like it's finding it, unfortunately. Let's stop that. Let's see, let's start the tape somewhere different. So we're on 125. Yeah, we're on 204. Let's do it from 204. It's having no trouble starting and stopping now, so that looks good. Alright, so we'll see if we can get back to around 204. $200, so that's perfect. Alright. We'll load cassette 0 test. But that unfortunately doesn't seem to be working. So I was really hoping the belt was the issue. But at least I think now we have belt issue resolved. So now we just need to figure out what's going on with the communication. So I was looking through the manual for the cassette player, and this is the read-write circuit. So there's the read-write head. This is the actual write command. Cuts on this transistor on and off, which sends the signal to the write head. And this is the read circuitry. It's basically an amplifier. And this section right here is a power supply. It's a 2-volt power supply. 2-volt output that's used for a reference. So it's also used to power the write head circuit. So we need that 2 volts for it to operate. So this PWSW, I'm going to call that power switch, I don't know what it is. It's kind of the enable system for the whole thing. It goes to a lot more than what's on the picture here. But it cuts on Q8, which cuts on Q7, which Q7 has battery voltage coming in on it. And it powers the chip here that supplies the 2 volts to the write head. And it also supplies power to one of the amplifier circuits. So without that voltage we can't get anything. And I am not getting a voltage there. So you also notice we have C2 here. It's the only kind of thing I can see that would short it, but I just replaced that. That was one of those 3 capacitors. Yeah, let's see if I can get it where you can see. So let me set it up to save. Here's Q7 here. If you see the scope here, we're getting over 5 volts on the emitter and 5 volts on the base, and the collector, it has a less than half a volt. Well, it has close to 1 volt, but I don't know that that matters. But whenever we do a read or a write, it should cut on. So I'm going to do a read. You see it came up a little bit. It's over 1 volt now, but it's definitely not cutting on. So either something downstream of it is shorted, or that Q7 is bad. So real quick, I'm going to check these capacitors I took out, because I don't know which one it was, but one of these was across the output of that to ground. So if one of these is shorted, then that may have failed the transistor. That might be a clue. So that basically looks like an open. Which I would expect that to be charging or doing something. That's not shorted. And that's not shorted, so it probably wasn't the capacitor. So maybe something on the board shorted, or maybe that transistor's bad. So I've got the meter set up to measure current. I'm just going to quickly short the emitter to the collector and see if we get a lot of current, or a little bit, or nothing. It's like 2 milliamps. So that seems safe. I'll set it back to voltage. And I can force that pin on with a jumper wire, and we can see if this collector voltage is actually going up. It's kind of floating around 0.3. It's kind of jumping around a little bit as I've been watching it. So it kind of does seem like a bad transistor. Yeah, it has no trouble going up to 5 volts. It wasn't pulling any current, so it's looking like that's a bad transistor. So what else can we try? I think let me find a way to jumper. Find something else that's pokey for the other side of this lead. Alright, so I've made a little shorting jumper here so that I can enable that transistor that's not working. And Q20 right here, the emitter, if we put this on here, we have 0 volts. That should go somewhere around 2 volts whenever this transistor is enabled, and that enables, that's showing that IC5 is working, which is what we need for writing. We're getting 2.53. Okay. So I think that transistor is just bad. Just to show, if I go to the base of it, let's go back over here. If I go to the base of it, you can see it's high, but if I do a write operation, it comes down just a little bit, and that's probably right, because it's probably the 0.7 volt drop that that's supposed to be going to the base to cut it on. So a 0.7 volt drop from the 5 volts to cut Q7 on. So it looks like it is getting an on signal. It's just not actually cutting on the collector. So let me see what I can find to put in there. So I do have some 3906 transistors, which is a really general purpose PNP transistor. And it looks like the pinout is the same. See, it's got the markings on there, base, collector, emitter. So I don't have any of these loose, but I do have them on some prototype boards that are non-functional. So I'm going to remove one of those and stick it on there and see if that solves our issue. Okay, so I've replaced Q7 with that 3906. If that is the problem, that's kind of a strange failure. I'm not really sure what would just cause a little switching transistor like that to fail. I can't imagine the load's very high on it. But we've got 5 volts on our emitter, 5 volts on our base, and that same voltage on our collector. So let's run, and now it's going up. Let it finish and make sure it drops down. Yeah. It's not getting hot or anything. The only thing I can think is that capacitor that's across it failed at some point and shorted and then opened back up. Maybe I cleared it whenever I desoldered it. But that's one signal fixed. So I guess let's see if this thing's working now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and rewind the cassette. Alright, and let's see, do we still have anything in memory? Let's see, list, we still have a print statement. So let's say save cassette 0, we'll name it test. It's writing. That belt's working so much better. Okay, now we will wind to 0. And let's see if we can load. Cassette 0, test. Hey, it found it. That's all it was, a little transistor. I wasn't expecting that. I figured it'd be an op amp. Alright. We found it, but it's still looking. I guess it keeps looking. I don't know. So I'll break. And then let's list. Well, it doesn't look like it got it. So let's, oh, you know what? It was probably reading the data. Maybe it says that it found it and then it reads it in. So our memories, let's just clear everything. So let's wind to 0. I'll let it go longer this time. That's the first time it's filmed anything, so it's definitely an improvement. Say load, cassette 0, test. Alright, so it's filmed test. I guess it's reading in the data. Man, I don't think it's finding it. We're a lot closer though. I'm gonna try this a few more times just to make sure something didn't mess up when it recorded. But we're definitely getting closer to have it working. Alright, so I ran through it again and it did work. So, I'm not really sure what happened last time. I probably got excited and pressed something. I also have everything hanging out of the machine, so it's probably not good for noise, but let's run through this. So, list, see there's nothing in there. So I made a program. We run it. I'll just print test. So let's rewind the tape. We'll say save cassette 0. We'll just call it T. And it's recording now. I'll show you all of it. I'm just trying to make it where you can see the screen. Try cutting the light on a little bit. Okay, well it's done saving. So let's rewind it. We'll say new, which will clear the program. So now if we list, there's nothing in there. So we'll say load from cassette 0, program called T. Found T. And the tape quit running. That's what it was doing before. So now if we list, and there's our program. Finally have a full working HX-20. That's awesome. I'm going to put this thing back together and play around with it. I am going to work on this LCD screen some more. I bought some polarizing film. So I'm pretty sure that that's where the rest of the discoloration is. I also want to do something better with the reflector in the back. The aluminum tape I think is reflective enough, but it's just so soft that when you install it you end up scarring it up. And so I was thinking mirror paint, maybe spray on the back layer of the polarizing film. I'll have to experiment with that and see if it works. If not, then maybe mirror tape, like I think they sell at the auto parts stores, a replacement for rear view mirrors kind of thing, or maybe some mirror vinyl. But anyway, that's it's going to be in the future. But for right now, I'm done with this. This is awesome. I'm going to put it back together and play around with it. Well, I've been sitting here recording stuff, and turns out it doesn't work all that great. And I think I figured out what the problem is. Not sure if you'll be able to see this. I'm cut on some more light. So I'm going to hit return, and the tape is riding up and then folding over. Try that again. Might have heard that little crinkle sound. So something is out of alignment. Or maybe that little rubber wheels messed up. But you can, let me see. Let me tape back to where it was damaging it. I don't know if you can see. There's like a crease along the top, and what that's doing is it's when it's recording and playing back, it's not lining up right. So I did end up getting a little handheld recorder, and if I record a program on here and then play it back, the volume's just up and down and up and down, and that matches up with what I'm seeing, because sometimes it'll load, sometimes it won't. Even if I just record it once, play back, sometimes it'll load, sometimes it won't. So it's just big inconsistency there. Not really sure if it's that or if it's the tape, but something's out of alignment, so I messed around with that for a little bit. Well, this is going to be hard to see. I don't know if the camera will show this up, but if I push this down, it rides right back up. But if I hold this down, there's a little bit of slop in it, and press it down, it actually stays down. And if you look at where the slop's happening, it's actually right here. It's like that hole's worn out. So it might be as simple as trying to bend this pin over that way a little bit. Of course, I don't know how it comes apart. But I'm going to try that. Well, I got it out. It's one of those things that it's really hard to get out, and it's going to be much harder to get back together. That little C-clip and spring, yeah, I don't know how it goes back together, but anyway, work on that. So you can clearly see on the bottom here that it's used to rub down on the plate there, and it was standing off of it now. So I think it's just over time either that swallowed out from using it or that bar's just slowly bent back. But I'm going to bend it forward a little bit. And also there's this interesting mechanism right here. So this is the hinge for the head mechanism. And this has a ball bearing pressed in it. And there's like a hole in this bottom part. And this is just a spring pushing down on it. So it just kind of keeps it centered. And I don't know if that ball's shifted too over time. But yeah, I'm going to bend that way to force this down more. And hopefully that'll line things back up. Not exactly sure that's the problem, but I don't see anything else. So I'm going to work on that and be back. It is back together, and it's definitely rubbing on the base now. So put it in there. I know y'all aren't going to be able to see it, but see if it still rides up. In fact, I can just watch the pulley or the rubber roller and see if it rides up on its own without a tape in it. Oh, it actually catches now. I'll have to bend it up a little bit. At least I can bend it up without taking it apart. So let's see. Oh yeah, it's not riding up anymore. It may be pushing down. It may have created the opposite problem, but I can adjust it up. I just couldn't bend it down because it was hitting the plate on the bottom. So let me tinker with that a little bit and I'll stick a tape in it. Alright, I got my light down here. See if we can see what happens. I believe it's tracking straight now. Yeah, that might be good. Yeah, I think that was it. That was pretty subtle. But I guess that hole just wallowed out just enough and let it bend up, and doesn't take much angle to over time. I mean, it probably took 2 or 3 inches before it rode up enough to actually hit the top and start bending over. So that probably has to be lined up pretty accurately. So I would imagine it was supposed to ride on that bottom plate. That's probably what was supposed to keep it aligned. But well, I guess I'm gonna do some more testing on this. It's probably good now though, so this will probably be the end of the video unless we run into another problem. But anyways, this has been a much bigger project than I thought it would be altogether. But at least it's fully functional now. Like I said, I'm probably going to do something about the LCD screen, because I'm not very happy with that. But other than that, everything's great. It cleaned up really nice. Came with a case, a charger. I don't know if I showed all that stuff. Yeah, nice little carrying case. The charger and everything. It didn't come with that book. That's something I printed out. Yeah, I got it for something around $100. So, like I said, you know, you watch all these YouTube videos, and I kind of figured this would be a quick project. And, you know, people open them up, and there'll be a capacitor blown or something, and or a wire that came loose. But this was definitely not that. This is a much bigger project than I expected it to be. But honestly, I buy the cheapest, crappiest looking things on eBay, hoping they'll kind of be a challenge. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope it helps you with your HX-20. And thanks for watching. So what's on these tapes? Well, this one definitely has some data on it. But I've been unable to get that to work in there. That was a terrible example, by the way. Of course, you can't buy a new microcassette drive as far as I know. So I got one that does kind of work, but obviously it needs a belt. And this one does do something. So I'm not going to write over any of these. I'm going to keep messing around and see if I can recover everything that's on them. But this one has... Let's rewind it. This one actually has a ski rider file on it. If we go to ski rider, say use cassette, load cassette, document number 1. It says loading. I don't have anywhere to block the glare. I keep stopping and starting. I don't know if that's normal. Alright, we'll edit. So it says untitled novel. I don't know if you can see that. Untitled novel by, I don't know, Bew Strongheart. If I zoom in, you can see. So, it's a novel, but it's only 10 lines long. I did try to see if there were more documents on here, but I was having trouble. But of course the printer's fixed now, so maybe I'll come back another time with some more information. But anyways, that's kind of neat. So we can, I guess we can print that. Might be the first paperback copy. If anybody knows who that is, put it down in the thing down there. See you next time.